To see all of you back here tonight to worship once again. I say tonight, I'm not 100% sure what time it is. I don't know what the concept of time is anymore. People talked about, you will understand tired when you have a child, and yeah, it's pretty true. And not even the fact that she's keeping me up. She sleeps very well. It's just that I don't sleep very soundly because she okay? She's still alive? She good? Every 5 minutes. But we're going to try something a little bit different tonight. And by that, I mean I do not have a PowerPoint or a Prezi prepared, so I'm just going off of notes. And I'm terrified that what y'all like about me is not my preaching, it's my PowerPoints. So we'll see if that's true tonight. And I'm not used to using notes, but we'll see how it goes. Right now on our Wednesday night classes, we're going through a series that we do about every year. It's going through different debate topics that the kids will interact with their friends, and they're inevitably going to have that conversation about baptism or instrumental music or what it is that the church disagrees with, whatever denomination they go to, why they disagree. And we go through and we have those debates, and I'll play the devil's advocate and we'll have those conversations. And I always think it's a good thing to do because I want them to understand the things that they will hear before they hear them, so they're not taken by surprise and led astray or anything like that. But I always give the opportunity for them to say, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. And there's the ones that always come up of, instrumental music is always the first one because it's the most obvious difference. But the number one thing that I hear and are asked several times throughout this class is, what am I supposed to say when people tell me, oh, you're in the Church of Christ, y'all think y'all are the only ones going to heaven, don't you? And, that's something that I've heard over and over and over and over and over again. Just seems that people really despise the Church of Christ. They just really do not like us and do not like the things that we stand for. And I'm very against having a victim complex of just saying, oh, woe is me, and life is so hard and people are against us. But it does seem that a lot of people, especially if they do not know that you are a member of the Church of Christ, are very against the Church of Christ. Now, once they figure out you are a member, their tone changes a little bit the majority of the time. But I always ask myself the question, why? Why is it that people are so much of the time against what we stand for, what we are? Why do people dislike us so? And I think there are several reasons, some of which we can control, some of those we cannot control. The first of which being people don't like being told that they are wrong in any context, whether it be religious matters or secular matters. People don't like being told that they're wrong. It gets them upset. So when we disagree with someone and we say, well, I think this way, a lot of times they're going to get upset because they feel that they are being told that they are wrong. Not only that, people really, really hate being made to feel small or being made to feel dumb or stupid. And a lot of the time, when you have these conversations with people about the differences between the church and their denomination, a lot of times what you'll see is that they haven't thought about this stuff. They haven't sat down and really contemplated why they do the things that they do. And that's one of the things that I try to stress a lot with our kids, is for them to understand why we do what we do. Not just what we do, but why. And if people are presented with that thought for the first time in not even an argument, just in a conversation with somebody else, and they're made to really think about it, they a lot of times won't have the answer. Because they don't have the answer, they feel dumb. And when they feel dumb, they get angry. That's just human nature. So a lot of times you can't really help that, but there are things that I have seen people in the church do that we can really help. And it kind of makes me sick when I see people do it, but I've seen so many people become so arrogant about these topics. Well, yeah, absolutely, we're the only ones going to heaven. Y'all are all going to hell because y'all are just dumb, you do the wrong things, and everybody doesn't have Church of Christ on the door is going to hell. Whatever you believe. I think that's a very small-minded way to look at things, but even if that is what you believe, that is a terrible way to say it. That is a terrible way to communicate it. And I would not blame anyone for being upset if somebody told them that, because that is a very, very harsh, inappropriate way to say that. Just the arrogance and the dogmatic hatefulness that people put forward when they are talking about this, it's again, I don't really blame people for being upset about it. But the things that we have to remember are, even if there are those out there who act like this, we still have to do the right thing. We still have to interact the right way with people and to not be so dogmatic, hateful, and arrogant about these things. And we also have to remember that the only people that we can speak for are ourselves. And I think the easiest way to really describe this is to look into politics. Especially right now with the president that we have, regardless of your political orientation. Maybe you like him, maybe you love him. I'm sure because we are Christians, we don't love some of the things that he does and says. We don't have to defend that. We don't have to defend what he does or says in our politics. We just have to say, well, look, this is the political stance that I take. What he does is his business. This is what I believe. And it's the same thing in our religious lives. You know, yeah, I understand that somebody might have told you this in the past. I understand that somebody who goes to a Church of Christ might have told you that you're an idiot, that you're going to hell, that this, that, and the other, but all I can do is answer for myself. I cannot answer for them. And then you have the conversation from there. But with these things, it's almost undeniable that there are people out there who really do not like the Church of Christ. And you look at the verse that Cooper read for us earlier, that Jesus telling his apostles in John that if people hate you, understand they hated me first. And not only that, understand they hated me a lot more. And to go along with why people hate the church, and this is not even just the Church of Christ, but all who try to practice what God preaches in any way, form, or fashion. There are a lot of people out there who just hate Christianity in general because they feel that they are being told that they are wrong. When someone acts the way that they should, treats people the way that they should, and are all around decent human beings, people who really don't match that description sees those individuals doing that and they feel small. They feel that, hey, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, so instead of changing myself, I'm going to hate you. Unfortunately, that's the stance that a lot of people take. But why is it that even within the religious world do we see so many people really against the church today? And if y'all want to get a kick, I guarantee you if you watch some of the kids when I say this, you're going to see some eye rolls and just some, because we've talked about this a lot and they're probably sick of hearing it, but we're going to get a little bit philosophical. One of the reasons is a philosophy called relativism. And we've talked about that several times. Some of the kids get it, some of them don't. It's a fairly complex topic, but it's something worth talking about in today's society because there's so much of it that goes around. And I'm going to read you the definition of it, and then we're going to actually get into some examples that might be useful. But the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute. So that's a fairly convoluted wording there, but look at it this way. Think about in Islamic countries where you have women are not supposed to show their face. They're supposed to dress in a particular way, and you know, they have all these standards for that. And then you come over here to America and you have Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. You have people in the world who say, "Oh yeah, they're both right. They're both 100% correct." Because it's relative to where you are in the society that you are. Right and wrong is relative to where you are in the world. Now we look at that and we say, you know, both of those are not really, neither one are right, neither one are correct. But relativism is this idea that, very simplistically put, everyone can be right. Everybody can be correct. So Nathan, if you go ahead and throw this up here, if you want a sentence that sums up relativism, this is it. And a lot of times I like to write this sentence down because once you see it, you see how stupid it is. You see how ridiculous it is. there is absolutely no absolute truth. And the reason I throw that second absolute in there, instead of just saying there is absolutely no truth, is to point out the absurdity of it, that you see that when you say there is no absolute truth, you are making an absolute statement. So it took me just a second when I first heard it, but to say that it is an absolute truth that there is absolutely no truth, it's paradoxical. It is not possible for that to be the case. But that is the idea that so many people have in today's society. That, you can have your truth and I'm going to have my truth. And if you listen to the media much today, you'll hear a lot of people talk, well, they're just really telling their truth. I don't care. I don't care what your truth is. Because once you get into that idea of your truth and my truth, well, what if my truth says that your truth is wrong? Better yet, what if what I claim to be true says that you should be put to death because what you claim is true? We have that in today's world. I mentioned earlier, there are radical groups within the Islamic faith that believe that anyone who does not join that religion should be put to death. Who's to say who's right there? I mean, that is such a dangerous territory to get into when you start talking about this idea of relativism. So, another time where you might watch the kids, because they can quote this to you because I've said this to them so many times, but if two people disagree, there's only three options. Person A is right, person B is right, or they're both wrong. That's the only way it can be. If two people disagree, somebody's wrong. Might be both of them, but somebody's wrong. So this idea of relativism, it's dangerous, and I think you can even look at it and think that the religious world might have started it. These people who you go to church and you see them saying, find the church of your choice. Go wherever you want to go. It doesn't matter. Just find what suits you. Find your truth. We know that's not true. There's different, I won't get into them now, but there's utilitarianism, deontology, there's ethics, value ethics, there's all different kind of ethics and ways to view the world where people try to figure out what is right and what is wrong, and we know that it is so much simpler to just look at the Bible and say, this is what is right. And simply by looking at the Bible, we can disprove this idea of everyone can be right. You even see where Peter gets on to Peter and Paul and all the apostles get on to people. You even see where Paul scolds Peter at one point in Galatians 4, where we see that everyone cannot be 100% right all the time. But because of this, because we take this stance of absolute truth, because we take this stance of there is a right and there is a wrong, we are going to be hated in today's society. If you were of the world, continuing on with the verse that Cooper read, the next verse, if you were of the world, you would be loved by the world. But you are not. And that is why you are hated. So, the reason that I talk about this is I came up with this idea for this lesson a long time ago, and I have yet to really do it yet, or I just now have decided to actually give it. But I thought about the elevator speech is what I was going to call it, and then I figured out that's actually already a thing. But I thought of it as an elevator speech, and that, for this year we had for the youth group, we had shirts made up with our theme for the year on it, and I thought, if you step into an elevator with somebody and they see Church of Christ on your shirt, and they say, oh, you're a member of the Church of Christ, what does that entail? What do you believe? What do you think because of that? What would be the best, most advantageous use of your time? Would it be to say, well, we believe in baptism, we believe not in non-instrumental music when we're singing, we believe in this, believe in that. Would that be the best use of your time? A lot of times I would say that the answer is probably not. I mean, there is a right and there is a wrong. I think the best use of your time, though, is just to inform them that, well, I think that what I believe is exactly what the Bible says. That is what we try to put forward. It's not that, when somebody asks, these are the tenets of our belief system, and you're either with us or you're against us. It's, what does the Bible say? That's what we're for. That's it. And it's not, our interpretation, or I believe this, or this is what I have to say about it. It's, the Bible says this, so that's what we're going to do. It's that simple. And so much of the time, I think we give ourselves almost a bad name because we try so hard, and because maybe we have been so attacked at times because of what we believe, that's the first thing we jump to, when the first thing we jump to should be, what is the greatest command? The second greatest command. The first, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. You can have those conversations in a loving way. And I will be the first to point out, hey, when I was in junior high, I can tell you that we had some arguments, and it wasn't a debate, it wasn't a conversation, it was an argument. We were fighting each other. We were ready to come to blows because of what we believe, and I was wrong. I was wrong in that. I was wrong in the way that I went about it. I was wrong in the way that I let myself become upset about it. But the Bible tells us to do so in love, with love. That being said, I do love, one of my favorite verses is Romans 12:18 that says, as much as is possible, live peaceably with all men. I love that verse because it points out, as much as is possible. I see April Pounder smiling at me right now because she knows that if I spend enough time with her, she can't be peaceably with me because she's going to want to smack me at some point. And she's right for that. But I love that verse, as much as is possible. That doesn't mean to become combative with people, but we will run into people who are going to be so combative with us that at some point, look at what Paul did when he was thrown out of a city. He knocked the dust off of his clothes and he went on to the next one. So, it's really the idea of evangelism. And how do we evangelize? If you have 5 minutes to talk to somebody, is it better to leave them with the idea of the church that, they're really strict about not using instruments, man. That's what they believe in. Or is it more important to leave them with this idea of, he says they believe what the Bible believes. I think that's a pretty admirable thing. And it's also this idea of, when it comes to evangelizing, would you rather be an example or somebody who constantly scolds people? And I think there is a very happy medium to be found with this. And I look to something, I've read this here several times, and I've referenced it several times because I think it's just such a wonderful poem by Edgar A. Guest, I'd Rather See a Sermon. And the idea of it being that I'd rather see someone acting like a Christian than trying to tell me how to be a Christian. And I think that's absolutely true. But what I think we do so much of the time is we use that as an excuse not to have actual sit-down Bible studies with people. So when you have that elevator speech, when you have that 5 minutes to say, yes, we believe what the Bible believes, don't just leave it at that. Help that to kind of lead you into a Bible study. That's one of the things that I've tried to stress with this class we've been having with the kids is it's going to be really awkward. If you have had a Bible study with somebody, if you have gotten someone to sit down with the Bible open with you, and at least the beginning of it, at least the hey, can we do this, the trying to get it set up, if that wasn't awkward, come talk to me and let me know how you did it so it is not awkward. This is my job, but still, when I ask people, hey, you want to have a Bible study, it is an awkward feeling. That's part of the reason that I put the kids in so many awkward situations so they get used to it and they get numb to it. And that's the reason my daughter is going to be perfectly fine with being in awkward situations. But it is awkward. It is a strange thing to talk to somebody because we're not used to having those real conversations in our society today. But it's something that as Christians we have to do. We can't let ourselves say, oh, well, I'm a good example to people, so I don't really need to have Bible studies. I think it takes both. And I think when you have those small conversations with people where maybe they start by attacking your faith, and that's one of the funny things about playing the devil's advocate is some of the kids get very into it. They get very upset when I play the devil's advocate and disagree with them. And it's one of the things you have to learn to do is to control your temper, to control your anger. And you say, well, I know that's probably what a lot of people in the church have made you believe, but, I just believe what the Bible says. I'd love to talk to you about that sometime. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Sit down with the Bible open and actually talk about what really is different about our belief systems. I think if we do that, we'll be a lot more successful in our evangelism, and all in all, I think we'll be a lot happier as individuals. Because when you get over the fact that, maybe you have been put against, and this is something that I could get on a soapbox for a long time. I've told a lot of people here, I keep up with politics pretty well, and I need to stop because all it does is make me angry. So I can get on a soapbox about this for a while, but there's a lot of people out there who want to be a victim. And as members of the church, we cannot let that happen. We cannot let ourselves be victims because all it does is make your life worse. So maybe people do hate you because of what you believe. Good. Maybe people do hate you because you were a member of the Church of Christ. You know what? Okay. Remember what Jesus told his apostles. If they hate you, remember that they hated me first. And I'll add to that and say, hated him a lot more. Hated him enough to be put him to death. Why? Because he was doing the right thing. Even though he was doing it in the most loving way possible, in the most perfect way possible, he was doing the right thing. And it is generally when you are doing the right thing when people hate you the most. It is normally when you are doing something good that people hate you the most. And that is a really sad realization to come to. But if you have found yourself being victimized because of what you believe or hated because of what you believe, every once in a while, my shoulders are bad, I need some help, but maybe you need some help getting your hand back there to pat yourself on the back. I think every once in a while it's okay to do that. Thank you for not laughing. That wasn't funny. But I think every once in a while it's okay to take some time to feel okay about yourself. But at the same time, if that's not you, I think it's time to look at yourself and say, why am I not? Why do people all get along with me? Why does nobody hate me? Why does nobody dislike me because of what I believe? Am I doing enough? And that's a very complicated question to ask yourself, but I think it's worthy of asking. And we offer this time tonight. I know this is not really a very emotionally grabbing, pulling you to want to confess your sins, but we do offer this time any chance we get that if anybody has heard the good news of Jesus Christ and wants to have their sins washed away, we offer that opportunity now. Or if you need anything, if you need prayers, you just need an arm thrown around you, we offer this time as we stand and as we sing.